the dribble. Deep two. Yes. Dropped it from the corner.
Pull up, three. Good.
Step back through. That's a good shot for three.
Stepping through off the window. Good. Stepping through the raindrops and the finish on the right hand.
And then it's going the Boomers' way with back-to-back threes. The Boomers, a WNBL chance.
Round 5 of the Cygnett WNBL tips off with a Wednesday night blockbuster between two championship contenders. The Melbourne Boomers are steadily building under a new coach, and with the Australian captain still to return in the coming weeks. Chris Lucas and his team chalking up some valuable early wins while they develop and refine their new game style. Meanwhile, the Townsville Fire are also a team to be reckoned with. Just 3 points off being undefeated after a narrow loss to the Spirit. They'll be keen to pinch a win off the champions and consolidate second spot. Two teams with a fierce recent rivalry will go at it again. The State Basketball Centre jumping for round 5 WNBL action. It's the Boomers and the Fire in Melbourne. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our ESPN WNBL Game of the Week, each and every Wednesday night on your home of hoops, ESPN. It is a big game tonight, so of course we bring in the big game player, the three-time grand final MVP, Kelsey Griffin. And Kels, it really is a big game tonight. These two teams, it's early in the season, but you can see they've already got the pieces they need to make a championship run. Absolutely, and not only do they have incredible talent on both sides, they have two very experienced coaches, and they're great at their X's and O's, so it's going to be an unreal chess match. I'm excited to watch. Let's check out the league ladder through 4 rounds of action. And there is one undefeated team. It is Kelsey Griffin's Bendigo Spirit after they rolled the Fire in a 2-point thriller in Townsville last Friday night. The Boomers and the Fire, so they're both one game back, and you can see why tonight's game is so important. The winner will sit outright second. The loser will slide back into that chasing pack alongside Southside, Adelaide and Perth. Sydney and Canberra both to open their accounts this season. They'll both have an opportunity to get that first win when they meet this Saturday afternoon. Let's welcome in the third member of our commentary team this evening as we head courtside and welcome in Megan Huswaite. And Megs, some roster movement in both camps this week.
3 weeks ago on Wednesday Night Hoops here on ESPN, Kate Gaze told us after the game how disappointed she was not to be participating in this WNBL season. Tonight she is. She signed with Townsville for this season. She's had one practice, one shooter out, and she's here tonight for what is a massive road trip for the Fire. It's 115 days since she last played her game of basketball in NBL 1. On the Boomers side of things, Mila Goodchild will be part of Melbourne for the rest of this season. And speaking of Melbourne, they've got a new look assistant coach tonight. It's not Christy Harrower, it's the Australian captain you mentioned, Jace. It's Tess Madgen stepping in as assistant coach to Chris Lucas tonight.
Thanks, Megs. Look forward to your insights, as always, from courtside. Well, it's time to tap into one of Australia's sharpest basketball brains. It's Kelsey's keys to the game. And, Kels, we're going to begin with the Boomers.
Yeah, so the Boomers, I think what's going to be really important for them tonight is their on-ball defense. Townsville's known for their middle pick and roll. They finish a lot of their sets that way. So how can Melbourne mitigate that and not let them have the defense collapse and kick out to great shooters on the perimeter? Also points in the paint. I think they're going to go early and often inside and see if they can exploit some of those mismatches. And then also playing at 2 tempos. Christy Walls can run, and she can run, and she can run. So she can certainly push the ball in transition, but I think it's also then slowing down in the and executing in the half court.
From a Townsville perspective, what are the keys to success tonight for the Fire?
So I think for the Fire, it's going to be limiting Melbourne's offensive transition. Can they keep that score to around that 70 mark? And I think doing that, or what will help them to do that, is limit those easy points in transition. Also, I think winning the rebound count. Anytime Townsville can be either equal or on top in the rebound count, that adds more possessions that they can then execute offensively. So I think that's going to be really important to them. And then on top of that, that is that offensive execution. Steph Reed is deadly in on-balls. She can find the open person. And so if they can execute, it's going to be down to the wire.
Two high-powered offences indeed. 87 points a game for Melbourne, 85 points a game for Townsville. Tiff Mitchell, the league's #1 scorer so far this season at 22 points per game. But she's followed by 2 Townsville scorers, Tiana Hawkins and Lauren Nicholson at 20 and 19 respectively. The advantage for the Boomers potentially, Kelsey, is they also have 2 other players in that top 10. Kayla George, Christy Wallace, both averaging 16 points a game. Steph Reed's averaging 12 for Townsville. Just there's going to be some firepower out there tonight.
Oh, there is a ton of offensive talent. And when you can get multiple players, and ideally when you're getting the 3, 4, even 5 in double figures, it makes it really hard defensively. So I think as much as we know these teams can play offense, it's who's going to be dedicated to defense tonight to keep that lower scoring and potentially come away with the win.
Boomers always pull a good crowd. They're in again tonight at State Basketball Centre. A rare visit to State Basketball Centre at the moment. The Boomers relocated themselves to Parkville as their primary home base, still playing a few games at SBC throughout the season. So Mitchell and Wallace versus Nicholson and Reid, 4 of the most dynamic players in the league. How do you see that playing out?
I think the Mitchell and Wallace one is, the Reid and Wallace one is a great one. And, you know, you're looking at opal point guards. There's been a lot of talk about Steph Reid's ability to potentially slide into that spot. Christy Wallace showed how dynamic she could be most recently at the World Cup. And Wally loves to play defense, so I think it's going to be an incredible matchup with those two. And then Nicholson and Mitchell, I mean, talk about two-way players that can definitely both play physical basketball and are capable scorers. It's going to be a great hit out.
We have an all-female referee crew this evening. Best of luck to Taylor Flint, Bianca Vernon and Shannon Jennings. Great matchups all over the court. 2 powerhouse teams with a great recent rivalry. Plenty of players have swapped singlets between these teams, as is that man, Chris Lucas. Not so much a singlet, more a polo shirt's Chris's style. Coached Townsville to a couple of championships, now in charge at the Boomers. 2 WNBL powerhouses, the next chapter of their rivalry. It's round 5, ESPN's WNBL game of the week. The Boomers and the Fire at State Basketball Centre. And the Boomers will have first possession. Wallace to Nelson Adoda. George tried to get it inside to Christy Wallace. Turnover comes, and here comes Reid. You mentioned she loves to run the floor. Looks for Hawkins. It's broken up by George. Mia Murray having another super season. Again, they go looking for the pass inside. It's Mitchell this time. Can't get her handle on it.
Yeah, I think Melbourne was trying to exploit some, intense up-the-lane defense by Townsville. But interesting, early on, Melbourne's trying to go inside and attack Steph Reid. Maybe the best defense against her is to get her in foul trouble.
There's an off-the-ball foul against Mia Murray on Samuelson. Mia Murray, another former Townsville Fire player.
And talk about a player who is absolutely having a cracker start to the season. I have been on the receiving end of many of Mia's three-point makes, and so I'm so excited to see her doing what she's done her whole entire career.
Having the second best season in her 15-year career. This year, 16, in fact, this year. Here's Mitchell. Cuts off the pass to Nicholson. Can she finish? Offensive foul.
I mean, that's great by Nicholson, not giving up on the play. Clearly would be upset about, the turnover, but here we can see Mitchell clearly thinks she has the lane. Nicholson gets back. Potentially might have been in that charge circle, but it is a bang-bang call, and it's not easy being an official.
Very diplomatically said, Kelsey Griffin. Here's Reid. Nicholson against Mitchell. Screen comes from Ruth. Nicholson gets to a spot she likes. Can't quite finish, and Murray on the boards.
That's interesting there. Melbourne's baiting Townsville into those long jumpers, but like you said, that is Nicholson's shot, so we'll see what happens.
Nelson Adoda gets into a move. She can't finish either, and Hawkins comes crashing in.
Well, it is a defensive hit out at the start, so we'll see who can crack the game open.
Nicholson, Samuelson, and now Reid against Wallace. Wants to take on Nelson Adoda. Nice tidy up from Ruth. Now she pulls out, and they'll reset. Reid and Wallace, 2 of the grittiest plays in the competition. That's going to be fun to watch tonight. Ruth gets her feet set, and the Fire get the opening points.
And that was great. That was, that's what Mick does, is Reid draws so much attention. Usually it's for the pass. Mick takes advantage of the rotation, gets an offensive rebound. They reset, makes the right read. Mick's able to knock down the shot.
Nelson Adoda now working on Ruth at the other end of the floor and draws a foul. Working into her season, Olivia Nelson Adoda, the import from Georgia. She's 22 years of age, played a college ball at the powerhouse that is UConn, and then went to the LA Sparks this season in the WNBA. Started 6 games there. And Kelsey, you know firsthand how it is to come from college to pros in the US and then come to Australia. And people say, well, it takes some time to adjust to a different style of basketball. What do they mean by that?
Oh, definitely. I think in all honesty, any collegiate player who's playing their rookie, maybe second season in the WNBA, coming to Australia is an incredible career move, because not only do you continue to grow and develop as a player by the amazing coaches across the league, it's also high quality play, and it prepares you to then go back and play in the WNBA. And you can see that success from a lot of the WNBA players that have played over here.
Reed gets a screen, gets away from Wallace, but Nelson-Ododa in good defensive position, and the ball comes back her way.
And that's the length of Nelson-Ododa. She is long, and she's using that length. Steph Reed normally draws a lot of fouls on bigs by being able to get downhill.
Another offensive foul. This time it's on Nelson-Ododa. A couple of early ones at the offensive end of the floor for the Boomers.
Yeah, and I think maybe just a little overzealous in that screen. I think if she, didn't have to stick her body out, she probably would have gotten away with it. And she's a huge part of what they're trying to do, so she can't afford to get into foul trouble early.
Wallace pressing right up on Steph Reed. So for two high-powered offenses, it's been a very subdued start. Can Hawkins get things going for Townsville? That won't drop either. And here's Wallace. She'll want to put speed on the ball as always. Tries to shake Reed, who sticks to the task. Does enough.
This will be interesting to see how long, I guess the score doesn't really show it, but how long the coaches are willing to let this scrappy style of play, or if they're going to want to call a timeout and just settle their teams down and see if they can execute an offense. I think both coaches are probably very experienced, can probably call plays that teams know well from the sideline and settle everyone in.
Reed to Hawkins against George. Tries to put a move on. Kayla wants to go baseline. Bounces it out of bounds and then drops to the floor looking sore. Here's another look. So ball just gets away from her, and is that a twist of the knee or the ankle?
She rolled her ankle. She, unfortunately, I think when she went to rip drive, stepped on Kayla's foot. Happens all the time in basketball, but it doesn't make it hurt any less.
Yeah.
Hopefully she's okay.
Kayla consoling her, and Tiana saying, don't worry, it's an accident. Here's another look. Watch that right foot, there it is.
Yeah.
Hopefully she can walk that off.
You don't want to see that. You never want to see any injuries. And Townsville's already been hit hard with the loss of Zatina Kuso as well from a foot injury. So we hope Hawkins is okay.
We'll get assessed on the sideline, maybe restrapped, and hopefully back into the action. Here's Wallace. Little pop over the top. Nelson-Ododa for the finish. And she ties it up.
That was really good patience by Ododa, just holding the seal, trusting Wally. Wally made a great read. And great finish.
Speaking of Reed, she hands off to Samuelson. And now Roof. Samuelson turns the corner. McSpadden into the game. She's come in for Hawkins and had an immediate impact.
And isn't she having a season? Talking about a player who takes advantage of her opportunities, she has just done, I've been so impressed with her this season for Townsville.
Now she puts the defensive work in, and Nelson-Ododa, who makes the reverse.
And that's great for Melbourne, going early and often to Ododa, having her get those touches, get that feel for the game. Her confidence is just going to grow, and they're going to need her to be a big key player in their offenses.
Reed versus Wallace. Christie tried to stay off. The foul was called.
And that's what Reed does. She's so crafty. She uses that hostage dribble, as you can see it, her cuts back in front of Wally and just doesn't allow Wally to recover. And then unfortunately the momentum for Wally pushed into Reed's back, and that's what she does time and time again. It's just a very high IQ play by Reed.
Explain what you mean by hostage dribble.
So unfortunately there wasn't actually a hostage dribble in that play. I thought there was going to be one, but she just actually used a change of pace to blow by. But when there is a hostage dribble, I'll be sure to let you know.
Thank you. Steph Reed, 93% free throw shooter. Generally makes you pay when she gets to the line. Wallace under some pressure from Nicholson, has to hoist it up to Mitchell. Which team's going to settle into a rhythm first? Here's Tiff, what a season she's having. Leads the league in scoring, and she can do it in so many ways.
And that was just poise. She just relaxed, saw what the defense gave her, didn't force anything, and just played under great poise and control to finish that.
Nicholson, can she respond? Good hands from George. Off to Mitchell. Murray. Wallace inside. Mitchell working on Nicholson. And Lauren does enough to hassle her out of the shot. Reed runs at Nelson-Ododa. Gives it off to Ruth. Can't finish. Once again, gets it back, kicks it out, and Samuelson gets the job done.
And that's what's so dangerous about letting Townsville get offensive rebounds, because when their shooters' feet are set on the three-point line, they're going to knock it down. They're very dangerous.
Wallace, Doda. George sets up. Should go herself against McSpadden, tries to feed it through. Ambitious pass to Murray. There's Tiana Hawkins getting some attention on the sideline. We'll go to Megan Huswaite shortly with an update. She's right there on the spot. Here's Steph Reed. Just over 4.5 remaining in the opening term. Townsville up by 2. Reed, Samuelson in the corner. Can she get hot? Nelson-Ododa having a really good first term, as you mentioned, Kels, working into the game nicely, finding her confidence.
Definitely, and I like that play call from Steph Reed for Townsville. She saw Samuelson just have made a 3 off an O-board from Mick, and then she ran a play to get her another look. Unfortunately, now down at the other end for Townsville, they ended up fouling.
Let's head courtside. Here's Megan Huswaite.
Good news from the Townsville bench. Tiana Hawkins is just having that right ankle strapped and will be ready to sub back into the game shortly. Of course, we know she's out here from the US playing in the WNBL this season with her partner and also her little boy. Her partner just came down to the bench to check that she was okay, and it was good news.
They've got a 6-year-old son, Emmanuel, who's become extremely popular around the group in Townsville. And Murray, a rare miss from her at the line.
Very rare miss. Glad to hear that Tiana's okay, though.
Makes the second. Scores level once again. Crystal Ledger-Walker into the game for the Fire. To Nicholson. She take on Murray, gets around. Lovely touch, Lauren Nicholson.
Balls Nicholson is so good going to her left. I think she just read that play great. She saw there was baseline, she could rip drive, and she got to her spot and made the shot.
Again, George tries to feed a bounce pass through to Wallace. Once again, doesn't come off.
Credit Townsville's defense. I think they're trying to force those backdoor cuts, but they're almost know that it's coming, and so those passes unfortunately aren't going through. And Kayla's a great passer. She's able to make those reads, so I think it eventually will work out for them.
Ledger-Walker thought about the gift to Nicholson. Collides with Mitchell, and now receives it back from Roof. Nicholson and Mitchell. Nicholson goes right on this occasion. Tries to feed it over the top to McSpadden. Mia Murray read that play, slapped it away.
Nelson-Ododa is doing a great job in this pick and roll defense of using her length. She's playing up, but she's also not letting the guards get past her. So credit to her and what she's able to do in their on-ball defense.
Catch and shoot situation for Samuelson. Didn't quite go. Had a good fist of it. Murray gets to her position and drains it.
I think Mia knew she was going to shoot that as soon as she started dribbling across half court.
Boomers in front. Nicholson over the top of Nelson-Ododa responds for Townsville. And both offenses now starting to find a bit of rhythm. George brings it down the floor. Off to Mitchell. She sets up for 3. Now it's raining buckets.
We talked about what a defensive presence both teams were causing, and I think they're still both playing great defense, but this is some great offense being executed out here.
Samuelson, nice little cut, pass through to McSpadden. And another quick response from Townsville. George to Murray. Pressure came from Samuelson. Murray fumbles it out. Townsville ball. Tiana Hawkins can check back into the game.
Clearly the ball screen defense is to go under on Tiff Mitchell, but that's an improvement of her game this season. She's shooting the 3-ball with a lot of confidence, so she's not necessarily a player that you can go under on balls anymore.
Nicholson again, baseline. This time not the finish, but Well done, Michaela Roof. She's having a real influence on the boards in this opening quarter.
She does that. Mick Roof is a workhorse, and offensive rebounds, she knows that's one of her strengths. And that's the thing that's special about this Townsville team is they all have their role, and they understand how they complement each other and what they need to do to be successful, and you can see that. I think that Iverson cut over the top for Laws driving on her left hand, that creates a rotation too, where then help side has to come, which is usually Michaela Roof's man, and then that opens her up for the offensive board as well. So that goes into all of the pieces of Townsville coming together to complement each other and be successful offensively.
You mentioned the significance of rebounds pre-game. Well, second chance points at the moment. 6 to Townsville, none to the Boomers, and Michaela Roof's 4 rebounds have been a big part of that in this opening quarter.
For sure, and she knows she doesn't have to shoot it. You know, she kicked it out to Samuelson for the 3, and that's, you know, even more deadly than the 2 put back.
So another good child into the game for the Boomers. Some pressure there up the court on Kayla George. Will remain a Boomers ball.
They'll need to get it over the half quickly.
Kayla does. Straight to Mia Murray, who's now got Woods for company. Wants to take her on and finishes.
It's just great recognition and poise by Mia. She saw it was a broken play, weird shot clock, and so she just took it upon her shoulders and made a good defense, but just better offense.
Up to 7 points, 5 to Nelson Adota, 5 to Mitchell for the Boomers. While Nicholson has 4 for Townsville, who are sharing the load around. Reed, Hawkins, spins, gets Mitchell off balance, doesn't finish, but gets her own board. And keeps it alive for Reed.
That's remarkable footwork for a center. Just shows the dynamic of her ability to play basketball. And Steph Reed, so crafty. I think taking advantage of Nelson Adota being off the floor. Great recognition by Steph Reed.
Speaking of footwork, just manages to weave her way through traffic. And in seemingly awkward situations, still finds a way to get to the hoop. Here's Murray again. Short on this occasion, and Roof again on the boards. Having a huge influence, Michaela Roof. Reed to Roof. Nicholson working on Davidson. Here's Roof. And the Roof is on fire.
That was great recognition by Laws. She understood they were going under the ball screen, stretched it so Mick could slip, and then got her the layup. But impressive finish by Mick as well.
Apologies, it's not what you need on a Wednesday night. My terrible dad jokes. Here's Mitchell working on Nicholson, and she responds. Well, this is turning into a really high-quality quarter of basketball. Early on, it was defensive, it was scrappy, and now the offense is bringing it at both ends.
That's great. I think Laws has been eyeing up that 3 ball. She saw that they've been going under her on balls, and so she just backed herself in that transition shot.
Good child. Davidson doesn't finish. Suddenly Townsville will skip away to a little 5-point break here. Late in the opening term, and they'll get the final shot. So a great last minute from the Fire after what had been a real arm wrestle for the entire quarter. Townsville managed to string together some buckets here. Can Nicholson finish with another? It's short. Quarter time at State Basketball Centre. 2 good teams going at it as Tiff Mitchell puts up a little trick shot that won't count. Townsville 24, Melbourne 19.
Execute it.
They're ejecting or they're getting the dump pass to the post. Be at the point of the screen. Okay? Nice. Okay, so we can attack the big. All right?
Keep re-screening on the side and get Tiff downhill.
All right, and then receiver spots opposite. Come on, guys, tidy it up.
3 boom. Activity, let's go.
Go, mate.
of her, right? And now, Lara, get ready to set that down screen, right? Woodsy's going through, and now Hawk, if they cheat that way, come off Lara for the 3. You know what I mean? If they don't, come off that, we'll get you the...
Entertaining opening term at SBC. Fire up by 5 at the first change. 24-19 after what was a scrappy start. Opened up in the back end of that first term. Both teams managing to pour on some points. Megan Hustwaite was courtside. She was in the huddle. Let's have a listen.
Well, it was Tess Madgen, assistant coach of the Boomers tonight, who addressed the team first, asking for 5 on the glass on defence every time. Then Chris Lucas came in and he was emphatic. Rebounding, rebounding, rebounding was the message. He said that we've given up 6 to 8 points because of it. Olivia in for Kayla to start this second term.
Great, thanks, Megs. Yeah, second chance points, 10-zip in the opening term in favour of Townsville. It's the one real glaring stat. Nicholson again looked to get baseline. Can Mitchell come up with the opening points of the second term? It's a little heavy. McSpadden cleans it up. So Townsville skipping out to a handy little lead late in the opening term. Here's Reed, speaking of skipping, just managed to skip her way through defences. Woods the reverse. Good work, Nelson Adoda. It'll remain a Townsville ball. Courtney Woods gets up, holding her nose. Just copped a little clip on the way through. There it is. No foul called.
And that's why Nelson Adoda is so important for this Melbourne Boomer defense. She anchors them, protects the paint.
Woods to Reed. Shot clock down to 2, working on Wallace. Can she finish? Oh, almost. And sweeping in there is Goodchild to knock it away from McSpadden and make it a Boomers ball. Wallace now goes to work on Reed. These two just going at it, hammer and tongs at both ends of the court right now. Davidson, little give to Goodchild. Back to Panina. Can't finish.
That was good help side defense by Townsville. They really clogged the key and didn't let Melbourne get anything going.
Nicholson puts a step on Goodchild, gets what she wants and one.
What a strong take by Nicholson. You can see that she's really testing the weak side defense of Melbourne. Are they going to come and rotate to her? And if they do, she has that pull-up game in her bag, so she can stop short and shoot that pull-up jumper. But you can see she's really testing Melbourne baseline and seeing what's going to happen defensively. And for the most part, she's been getting her way.
Megan Hustwaite, the special guest.
Well, before she was a 3-time AFLW champion and 3-time Crows Best and Fairest winner, Anne Aptard was a WNBL player. She's here tonight. And why are you supporting Townsville?
So I've actually come over to Melbourne to support my stepdad Marcus. So he's the assistant coach for the Fire, so I thought I'd get around him and his team.
I'd like to see you still taking an interest in the WNBL, even though you're an AFLW star. What have you made of this game so far?
Yeah, it's pretty physical out there. Tight contest, so I'm really keen to see who can come out with the win at the end.
Thanks for joining us.
No worries.
And Hatchard, one of the great stories of AFLW over the first 7 seasons, worked so hard to turn herself into an exceptionally good player. Speaking of those, here's Steph Reed. Another hard worker who's turned herself into an exceptionally good player as Mitchell goes down off the ball and extracts an offensive foul. There are a couple called against the Boomers in the opening quarter. They get one back their way here. On McSpadden for the screen. And important minutes here for the Boomers. They trail by 8, Kels. They need to get something going on offense. They're getting some looks but not finishing their work.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of their plays are getting broken. So I think Townsville defense is pushing them out of their sets. And I'm surprised they haven't gone inside more. I thought that that was something. They looked early to post up Wally against Reed, but then they haven't gone inside to Kayla or Nelson Adoda a little bit, but not really in those isolation plays.
Wrap around from Mitchell, feeds Nelson Adoda. And the Boomers come up with a couple.
And that was just a great heads-up play by Mitchell. She realized the shot clock was winding down and she needed to get something going.
McSpadden puts it on the floor, gives it off to Nicholson. McSpadden comes in but can't control it.
And she's just being relentless on the glass. McSpadden's doing, again, a really great job in her minutes. She's giving them energy, contesting every rebound, whether she gets it or not. She's putting pressure on the Melbourne bigs.
Rebound count 12-7 at the moment in favour of Townsville. Critical stat tonight. Wallace, creative. George, Mitchell's open, and that spells trouble.
And that's probably the tempo that Chris Lucas would like to see a little bit more. See if he can get Townsville on their heels and create some rotation so he can get his shooters with their feet set.
Margin back to 3. Good start to the second term from the Boomers. Have stabilised the situation, got back into the contest. Reed, lovely. Ruth couldn't finish. Wallace pops it over the top. Nelson Adoda almost going out of bounds. Tried to keep it alive, but Samuelson cut it off. Reed to Hawkins. Works on Nelson Adoda. Foul comes, I think, on Kayla George.
Might have just been a little overzealous by Kayla on that one. Nelson Adoda potentially had her with her length, but Kayla just comes across. I think because Mick was standing right there, got tempted to try and block the shot. But Kayla's so long by herself. I mean, if her and Nelson Adoda are standing there with their hands up, it's a hard duo to finish over the top of, but credit Hawkins and her ability to get downhill.
13 of 13 this season from the strike to make it 14 of 14 for Tiana Hawkins. 31-year-old Ridgely from Maryland. Seasoned vet. Margin back out to 5. Mitchell, will she take Ruth on? To George for 3. And Kayla drains it.
Kayla can be so deadly from on top of the key, and I think, you know, that was one of those moments she just knew she needed to step up and shoot that shot.
Reed gets a screen from Ruth. Tough shot, she makes it good. Kayla almost throws it away. Wallace just keeps it alive.
And Reed is really having her way now in this second quarter in the pick and roll.
She pounces on this one and puts in another 2 after Kayla lost control of it. Steph Reed, just a relentless worker.
Absolutely, and playing with such poise. She does such a good job with her body control to slow down for those finishes. It's remarkable.
Well, a great recent rivalry between these two teams, the Fire and the Boomers. Here's Michelle Timms with more.
There's a clear, healthy rivalry between Townsville and the Melbourne Boomers.
George, back out to Garrick. She misses as well. Townsville hang on. They're off to the grand final. In the most dramatic of fashion.
They played a best-of-3 grand final series in Townsville, the third game, and lost. They played him the next year in the semi-final and got booted out and lost again.
Back to Allen. Allen into the corner. Madgen for 3. Misfires. They run out of time. Townsville complete the comeback of the season in one of the best games and comebacks you'll see in the WNBL for many years. From 20 down.
The Fire got hot, if you know what I mean.
That clip from Sidelight, Adam McKay's wonderful inside behind-the-scenes documentary of the Melbourne Boomers championship season last season. Do yourself a favour if you haven't seen it. It is available on KO. Great rivalry between these teams. A grand final series, a semi-final series, and then that massive comeback from Townsville last season. At the moment, the Fire lead by 6 as Wallace and Reed renew hostilities. Nelson Adoda. Back to Christie. Mitchell keeps it alive for the Boomers. That's what they need. Some second chance opportunities. Wallace. Relentless pressure. Nelson Adoda. George in good position, and eventually they get the 2.
I think that high-low game could be really good for Melbourne. With their length, it's going to be hard because depending on the matchup, there might be a mismatch.
Reed and Samuelson combine. Steph gets it back. Steps out on Wallace. Will she go herself? She'll go to Ruth as the shot clock expires. They worked it perfectly. Michaela with the finish. Nelson Adoda on the break. Gets those 2 back for the Boomers. Margin at 4. Approaching the midway point of this second term. Wednesday night basketball, our ESPN WNBL game of the week. It's second versus third. Melbourne and Townsville putting on a show early. Samuelson, Reed, Hawkins against George. Tough move, beautiful finish.
I mean, that was good defense by Kayla, extended hand, but just really good offense by Hawkins.
George having a fumbly kind of a night, Kayla, uncharacteristically so. Nicholson makes her pay.
And Laws Nicholson is so good when she doesn't hesitate. She sees the ring, shoots it, backs herself. It's so great to see her playing at this level that we all know she can be.
Mitchell. This time she loses the handle. Can't keep it alive. And the Boomers have been uncharacteristically fumbly. The ball handling hasn't been great as we head courtside. Here's Megan Hustwaite. We'll come back to Megan shortly. Turnovers 11-6 at the moment in favour or against Melbourne. And that has been really, really costly.
I think you really have to credit the Fire defense, though. They've done a great job.
And Hawkins adds 2 more and 1 potentially to come. Speaking with Shannon Seabottom during the week, Townsville's coach, he said, priority 1 for us tonight on D, every shot must be contested.
Yeah.
Melbourne have put up some big points, but against some teams that maybe aren't quite as defensively strong as Townsville are, and it's working for them so far.
Definitely, and Shannon's one of those coaches that's meticulous in not only what he wants in his offensive execution, but he would have a clear game plan that he wants for Townsville to be dictating the shots that Melbourne's doing. And so while we might think it's uncharacteristic for Melbourne to be having this night, I think that it's also a credit to Townsville and the pressure that they're putting on and making Melbourne go into their broken sets. They're not really getting open, easy looks.
Let's go, Chris Lucas.
42 basket. Okay, 42. So Tiff, you go low, Mia is high, bust out, pinch it, back door. Okay, back door. Okay, we need to look after the ball, guys. All right, be aware of a press here. Okay, we'll come out of the timeout. Let's go to our 1-1-3. It's a match-up zone. There will be pick and roll in it. The pick and roll, we have to play the same. You need to contain the guards. Okay, switch the pick and roll. All right, does everybody understand? If the ball goes to the foul line, twist to man. Twist to man, okay? Stay in it until they score.
The timeout brought to you by CTM Sport. If you're considering travelling interstate to watch your team, consider CTM Sport at ctmsport.com.au. Well, there have been precious few timeouts in this game. Both coaches have been prepared to just let their teams play.
I think that shows the belief they have in their point guards and clearly their preparation up to this point where they have certain sets that they know they want to execute to get a score. I think what was interesting about that timeout from Chris Lucas is he's clearly unhappy with his defensive end or probably maybe their execution defensively. So he's going to be looking at junking up the game a little bit and seeing if he can disrupt Townsville's rhythm, which makes a lot of sense because they're running their plays quite fluidly.
As you mentioned, you've got to look after the ball more. The Boomers with 11 turnovers, or 13 it's up to now. 13-6. It's been costly. They trail by 11 points, and that's a big part of the reason why. Mitchell, George is left open. How many times have we seen that over the years?
And that's so good for Melbourne, executing out of the timeout, getting feet in the paint, collapsing the defense, and then you can have shooters like Kayla, like Mia Murray, like Mitchell, who can have their feet set and knock down that open three.
Samuelson to Hawkins against George. Kayla with a hand up in her face. Back to Samuelson, catches, shoots, no good. Again, Roof. The second chance opportunity. Late in the shot clock, puts up another one. Samuelson gets a third. This will be driving Chris Lucas mad, and in the end, an easy soft two.
And that's just wanting it. Rebounding a lot of times comes down to just wanting it. And I think that also is the risk, though, when you do go to zones, is how are you going to box out? Who are you going to box out? And so that's going to have to be a focus for Melbourne if they are to stay in their zone defense.
Foul call as Carly Samuelson grabs her nose. Margin sits at 10 with just over 3 minutes remaining in this first half.
And it's hard to beat any team, let alone a really talented team like Townsville, if you're giving them 2, 3, 4 efforts at executing or shooting.
Points in the paint, +4 for Townsville. Points from turnover, +7 for Townsville. Second chance points, +8 for Townsville. So All those metrics favouring the visitors. As is the scoreboard, they lead by 10. George can't make it from the corner.
And like you said, for the most part, it's one and done for Melbourne. So while Townsville is offensive rebounding well, they're also defensive rebounding really well.
Samuelson, nice move. Saw Ledger Walker in space. Couldn't finish the shot. Here's George. Wallace against Ledger Walker as Reed takes a rare break. Wallace gets to a good spot for her. Rattles out. Ruth puts some speed on it. Loses the handle off her knee. Boomer's ball. Well, she thought she was point guard for a moment there. Started to get some momentum up.
She did. And as a forward or big man, if you're going to take it all the way down, you want to make sure you're finishing it, because you're never going to hear the end of it if you don't give it to your point guard.
The look on her face said it all. She got up with a wry smile going, I'm going to hear about that one. So the margin sits at 10. Just over 2 minutes remaining to half-time. Can the Boomers eat into this lead? We saw Townsville kick away late in the opening term. Wallace to Mitchell. George. Now Murray. She'll shoot the three. It's short. And once again, it's the Five picking up the rebound. Reed. Tough shot. Great finish from Courtney Woods off the glass. Margin at 12. George and Mitchell. Penina Davidson.
It almost looks like Townsville's in a matchup zone, or they're switching all on balls. They're making this really saggy type, almost amoeba-like defense, which I think is also disrupting Melbourne offensively, because they can't quite tell how they can get into the paint off their on balls.
Another handling error from the Boomers. 14 turnovers in the first half of basketball. They trail by 12. Hawkins. Reed. Back to Tiana. Flings it wide. Nicholson can't quite haul it in.
I think what's really impressive about Townsville as well is their want to share the ball. They know that if they don't have their shot, the next person's going to have their shot. And I think that starts with Steph Reed and how she really orchestrates the offense.
They needed that, and Tiff Mitchell delivers. Margin back to 9. Reed against Wallace. Steph works on Penina Davidson and draws a foul. Got the screen from Ruth, worked around it.
And here you can see Steph Reed essentially is snaking the screen, so she's baiting the big to come up and guard her. But in doing so, as the big drops back to try to protect the basket, she cuts across and uses her screen to get to the opposite side of the ring. And then she's able to use the ring for protection as well as her body to create space to finish. And it's something clearly her and Shannon have worked on and developed in her game, because as you could see from last season, where she's grown even more, which we didn't know that she really had more to grow considering how much she improved last season. So she's really just going from strength to strength.
She was 65 of 70 in her career at the three-point line, at the free throw line, and she missed 2 of her first 3 tonight. You could have got good odds on that. She makes the second, and the margin's back out to 10. Wallace. Mitchell wants it to count. Ref says no, wave it away.
So Boomers were executing out of a horn set. They were bringing everyone really high, and so I think it was great recognition by Wally to use her body and physicality to get downhill on Steph Reed, the smaller defender. You can see she recognized Steph Reed, went under on the handoff, but still was able to get that first step, and that just speaks to Wally's quickness.
Christie was thinking she was going to the line to shoot 2. Ref had some news for her. Sideline ball.
It's an important play for Boomers out of this sideline execution.
Final minute of the first half. They trail by 10. And there's another turnover.
That's a tough one. Steph Reed up and in, playing defense. Certainly one I think Wally would definitely want back.
We should mention credit to Townsville. They've really got the Boomers out of their offensive rhythm. The Boomers really fumbling the offensive end of the floor tonight. Some uncharacteristic turnovers. 15 of them in a half of basketball. And they trail by 10.
Yeah, it's really hard to win any game of basketball, or half of basketball, turning it over 15 times.
We'll head into the Townsville huddle. Thanks to Cygnett. Stay connected with the latest WNBL news and social highlights. Keep your favourite tech charged up at home with Cygnett. Explore the range at cygnett.com as we listen in to Shannon Seabohm.
So you're coming off, Loz go under, right, ball screen Steph. Now, if they stay in that drop or whatever, right, just come off and pop. There's no one on that whole side. It's a 3 ball. Everyone else get on the boards and Steph go back, right? Now, if we don't get it, Loz comes up, Woody in the corner, Roof come ball screen, Hawk, Flare, Steph, right? And then we're playing downhill, right? Here we go. Fire. Good job, mate. Good job. Yep. Good job. You go.
And so I think what's really great about that timeout and what Shannon was explaining was that that 3-point shot, as far as he was concerned, if it went in, that's great. If not, they were crashing the glass. So a missed shot is just as good as the pass at the rate that Townsville's rebounding. And when you have that kind of confidence from your coach, when you step up and shoot your shot, you're feeling it. You're not feeling a lot of pressure because you know your team's behind you to rebound your miss. And I think that's why you can see that Townsville's ready to just let it fly when they're open.
+7 in rebounds, 17-10 to this point in the game. In favour of Townsville, here's Reed. Picks it out. Woods. George gets a hand in. Reed tidies it up. 4 seconds left on the shot clock. Steph gets to the rack and finishes. Playing quite a first half, Steph Reed.
She is, and it's that last step from Steph Reed to try to block her shot. The timing on it's so difficult.
So Mitchell will hold up for the final shot of the half. Boomers need some points. They trail by 12. Mitchell. Will she go herself? Runs herself into some trouble. Turnover comes. Time for Reed from half court. Can't make it, but that is a really impressive first half from the Townsville Fire. They have got the Boomers out of their rhythm, and they've taken control since late in the opening term. It's half-time at the State Basketball Centre. Townsville 49, Boomers 37. 25 points to 18 in that second term, and a 5-point lead at quarter time has turned into a 12-point lead for Townsville. Let's head courtside. Here's Megs.
I'm with Michaela Ruth, who's on the verge of a double-double at half-time. How much was an emphasis on the team defense tonight?
Yeah, I think we put a really big emphasis on, guarding with 5 players, not just letting people go one-on-one. And I think we put a big emphasis on getting rebounds too, and so that's why we're hitting the boards hard.
What about the pressure on the ball and pressuring the Boomers? We've seen them turn the ball over a lot in that first half, and then on the other side of things, you've had a spread of scoring.
Yeah, I think, we really just wanted to get into it defensively. When we play good defense, it lets us flow into offense really well, get transition baskets and easy layups and things like that, and I think it really gets us going. So it was a big emphasis for us. Yep.
Thanks, Mick. Good luck in the second half.
Thank you.
Great first half from the Townsville Fire. They lead it by 12 points at the half. Back to break.
Test, test, test. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
The WNBL Championship last season was a long time coming for the group of Boomers, especially the core of us that had been there for the last 4 or 5 years.
Game 1, and Kayla George picking up where she left off here in Game 2.
Finally to get over the line, it was really great. Winning a championship is not easy at all, and really, really proud of us as a group to knuckle down and get that done, especially, you know, creating history. Never had a team lose the first game like that at home and then win the second game like that, never had that happen. So just wanted to create a bit of history for the league, that's what we were doing.
Bronze Aussies once more.
Listen to the roar of that crowd.
The Opals claim their first World Championship medal on home soil.
Being on home soil, first and foremost, was absolutely phenomenal. Can't really ever anticipate how huge it's going to be until you're in it, and it was absolutely incredible. It wasn't until I got a message from Sandy Rondello, you know, saying how proud she was of me with what I've achieved this year, and I was like, oh wow, I really have achieved some really cool things, like some huge things this year, a championship, bronze medal, mum, like whoa. So I had a minute to like, oh, but I think the real reflection will come over time, and the group that we had were just an amazing group of women, and yeah, I'm glad that it happened and I was a part of it. So far, motherhood is everything it's cracked up to be. I just can't wait to continue to get to know Pearl and her little personality coming through. It's still, yeah, a bit surreal. I just stare at her all the time. I just kiss her all the time. She's just such a beautiful little bubbly.
Beautiful to see Kayla George. So happy in such a great place in her life. She's an all-time great of Australian basketball, the 4-time champion. She's now second all-time in WNBL rebound. She's 7th all-time for scoring, Kels. She really is in the upper echelon of the greats we've had in Australian basketball.
And I also think not only does it speak to her ability, but her longevity to do it for as long as she's done it. And she's always been a focus in every scout, her ability to rebound, to change a game with her three-point shooting, how she can score inside and outside. I think it is, you know, one thing that as she spoke to, you might not realize it in your career, but hopefully something she can certainly reflect on and be really proud of what she's achieved.
Averaging 16 points a game in her 15th season at the age of 33. No signs of slowing down for Kayla George, but she and the Boomers are going to have to get busy in the second half. They trail by 12 at half-time, and really very impressive opening half from Townsville. What impressed you most?
I think how deliberate Townsville was, and to be honest, I'm not surprised by it because Shannon's alluded to having these pieces in this team that he really feels quite special about, and I think he's recruited well. I've spoke about it before, and their ability to play with each other and trust each other, you can really see that in how they've played tonight. And make or miss, they're getting the right shots, and it's great basketball to watch.
It was scrappy for both teams early on, not a lot of points coming, and then Townsville managed to break away late in that first quarter and then really seemed to get the second quarter on their terms. The Boomers with uncharacteristic ball handling issues, 16 turnovers to half-time, Kelson. There's not a game plan in the world you can draw up to cover 16 turnovers.
Yeah, and when you throw in the rebounds as well, that's a lot of possessions that are going in the favour of Townsville. And when you have a team that can execute as well as Townsville, it's so hard to come back from. So I think this halftime chat from Chris Lucas is certainly going to be around execution, but I think also defense. And if they can get some defensive stops going, then they'll be able to get running in offense and get some of those transition easy baskets that Melbourne Boomers like to get.
You can see their field goals, 37 attempts to 24, so 13 extra shots in a half of basketball for Townsville. They lead by 12 points. Boomers have got some adjusting to do in the second half. We'll be back with the third quarter action from State Basketball Centre on ESPN's WNBL Game of the Week next. State Basketball Centre, Wednesday night action, ESPN's WNBL game of the week. It is the Fire leading the Boomers by 12 points at half-time as we head courtside. Here's Megs.
I'm with Gemma Potter, injured WNBL star. It is a month since your surgery. How's the recovery going so far, Gem?
Yeah, good. Been a month, been at home with my family and friends, so had the support around me. Heading back up to Canberra this Friday, so it'll be good to get back up around the girls.
Let's talk about Canberra winless so far to start WNBL 23, but a great opportunity against fellow winless side Sydney this weekend. Can the Cats get their first W?
I hope so. Definitely have the ability to. The squad's looking really good. They've had a couple of weeks of training now with the new group since injuries, so yeah, hopefully they can get the win, be back up and cheering as loud as I can.
You will be there cheering. Good to see you, Gem, and all the best in your recovery.
One of the exciting youngsters of Australian basketball, Gemma Potter. Look forward to seeing her back next season. When we break these numbers down, Kels, amazing thing in this game, the shooting percentage for both teams is 57%. It's just that Townsville have taken 13 more shots.
And that comes down to that possession game, whether it's rebounding, whether it's turnovers. And I think Chris Lucas would probably be pulling his hair out. You know, his team's shooting 60% from the three-point line. You want that as a coach. How can they create more of those opportunities and hopefully chip back at this lead?
Let's see if the reigning champs can eat into this deficit in the third term. They trail by 12. Great to have you with us on our game of the week every Wednesday night on ESPN. Nelson Adoda to open proceedings in the third.
And I don't mind that from Melbourne. They went back to an inside touch. Although a bit clunky and unsure, I think that's going to be important for them to see if they can get Townsville's defense to collapse.
Nicholson and Reed have had a huge impact in the game as expected. George off to Mitchell. Nelson Adoda sets the screen. Tiff loses the handle but regains possession. Back to George, pops it over the top. No percentage play to Nelson Adoda is cut off. Reed sizzles a pass to the corner for Samuelson, who takes a moment to set her feet and drains another three.
I think the difference with Townsville's broken plays versus Melbourne's broken plays is Townsville's executing out of them.
And Mitchell, can she get something going?
And that's a huge shot from Mitchell. They needed that.
Tiff up to 16 points, leads the game for the Boomers. 9 for Nelson Adoda, 8 for George, while Nicholson's had 12 for Townsville, 10 to Reed, 9 to Ruth. They've shared the load. Mitchell, quick hands, picks up 2 more. And the Boomers start to work their way back.
What was so great about that defensive presence was that Wally was able to defend Reed one-on-one in that, and Melbourne didn't have to collapse. That allowed Tiff Mitchell to get in the lanes, get that steal, and be able to convert that layup.
These two teams with a great history. There's Townsville leading the Boomers by 15 at halftime last season, came back and won a thriller. Reed, so industrious. Long three from Hawkins as the shot clock expires.
Chris Lucas has to be happy with that coming out of timeout. They've clearly talked about what they want to do on ball screen defense, how much they're willing to keep 2 players guarding Reed as she's kind of weaving through the key. And clearly they're prepared to switch a lot earlier, which allows people to stay home on their man on the weak side.
Wallace. Reed up in her grill as she has been right throughout. Now Mitchell gets to the lane, gets to the rack, but doesn't finish.
That's another good shot from Melbourne, feet in the paint.
This time it's a turnover from the Fire as Kayla George will receive the ball back in front of the Boomers bench. Melbourne trying to get a bit of energy going early in this third term. Margin sits at 9. Nelson Adoda to George. They've got the firepower if they can get hot. Nelson Adoda now works on Ruth. Nice finish from the youngster.
And that's what I was worrying if we were going to see. Originally, I thought there'd be a lot more focus at trying to go at undersized Ruth in the post, and so it was great to see Nelson Adoda play with poise and finish under the ring.
Nicholson tries to feed it through. Hawkins gathers it in, works the baseline. Coming across is Nelson Adoda. Ruth wins the ball. Desperate scrap on the deck. Jump ball. Good scrap again from the Boomers here. They've started the third term well. They've cut the deficit from 12 to 7.
But that's also what you can say about Mick, is while she might be undersized on one end and defensively it's difficult for her guarding Nelson Adota, she's able to get offensive rebounds and give other possessions to Townsville.
Possession arrow in favour of the Fire. They retain the ball. 0.7 seconds on the clock. A drop of play under the hoop to Samuelson. Just couldn't quite haul it in. And the Boomers get another stop.
That's big. That shows that championship, pedigree that a lot of these players have. Even though you're down at halftime, the game's not done. They've certainly responded the way you'd expect them to.
Mitchell, good screen from Nelson Adota, but Tiff loses the handle again. Extraordinary tonight, the amount of times the Boomers unforced errors with their ball handling. Haven't seen anything like it from them in a very long time.
Yeah, it is very uncharacteristic. Certainly one Tiff would want back.
7-point margin. Reed. Hawkins. Samuelson back to Steph Reed. Movement here. Hawkins to Nicholson. No drop. Wallace gets to the stripe and finishes. 5-point game.
And that's great for Molly. She's missed a couple of those early, but that is her shot. Point guards need to be able to come off the dribble and shoot that foul line jumper, and so I'm happy to see her staying aggressive.
Nicholson can't quite finish. Another stop for the Boomers. 9-2 so far in this third term. Wallace loses it. Nelson Adota there to collect it. Wallace pops it over the top. George in good position, and it's a 3-point game. What a start to the third term for the Melbourne Boomers. They've put on 11 points to 2. And that 12-point halftime lead has been all but erased as Kayla George pleads with the referee.
I think she might have been wanting moving screen. I don't think she was happy about that.
This timeout brought to you by DIY Blinds. To fit out your home with Australian-made designer quality window furnishings at the best prices. DIYblinds.com.au. Here's Shannon Seabohm in the Townsville huddle.
Right, let's go here. Right, Steph, Ruth, Hawk, Loz, and Carl, right? Pick away for Hawk, throw it to her, right? You're going to cut to the corner. You're going to come to the wing, right? Hawk, when you catch it, if you can do a layup, do it, right? If not, go hand it off to Loz, and then Ruth, you're popping back to the top, right? So now Hawk, Loz, Ruth with the ball. You're going to dribble out Carly, cut across the free throw line. And now Steph, come up hard. Wally will deny you. Back cut for the layup. Right, cool with that? Good, here we go. We're fine. Fine, here we go. We're fine.
So 11 points to 2 to start the third term. What are the Boomers doing in this quarter, and what aren't Townsville doing? Where's it changed?
Well, the Boomers are getting shots in the paint. Except for Tiff Mitchell's big three, they're getting shots in the paint and they're getting stops. And I think part of it was their adjustment in their ball screen defense. They're not committing as many to the ball screen defense because of the style that they're playing. And so I think that's allowing them to stay home. And then Townsville isn't getting the wide open rip lanes that they had previously.
So now we get to look at Townsville and their ability to adapt on the fly. Can they get the game back on their terms? Reed, Hawkins, Nicholson, Ruth. Here's the play they drew up. Wallace got a handle on it. Knocked it away. Almost exactly as Shannon drew it up. Meg Shearer in the Boomers huddle. What did Chris Lucas have to say?
Well, you can tell that the momentum has shifted, the energy has lifted in the Melbourne Boomers huddle. You could hear it in Chris Lucas's voice. He implored his team to keep going with this momentum change, and assistant coach Tess Madgen praised her teammates for their improved defence in this early third quarter.
Slashed the margin back to 3. Ruth, they needed it, not quite. Wallace spins away from Hawkins. Thought about the give to George. Instead, she goes to Murray. Back to Christie. Now Kayla to Mitchell. Scrap work again from Nicholson. Makes Tiff earn it. So she'll kick it out to George, who will finish. And we are tied.
And that's, again, getting feet in the paint by Tiff Mitchell. Maybe she could have shot it, but she trusted that Kayla was going to knock down that 3.
Reed and Ruth, quick handoff back to Steph. Hawkins wants some movement from Samuelson. Gives it to Nicholson. Shoulder to shoulder with Mitchell. Draws a crowd. Samuelson from the corner responds. Big bucket for Townsville.
That was huge. They needed that one. And what I really like to see is that they're letting Tiff Mitchell and Laz Nicholson play. You know, these are two very good defenders and also very good offensive players. And they're letting them play. They both create contact, and so it's a great contest watching them.
George just dribbles down the court herself, can't finish. And Townsville now with a chance to open up a little bit of a buffer once again. A couple of possessions if they can finish it off here. Reed gets to a dangerous spot, and one.
That is a tough, tough finish. Steph Reed uses her hezzy, takes a long stride steps, baits Nelson Ndota into collapsing, and then gets fouled and one. And I think that's where Nelson Ndota just needs to stay straight up. I'm sure Gino told her all the time at UConn, just keep your hands up, you're long enough. But that's what Steph Reed does that's so hard to defend, is she baits you into it. And more often than not, she gets the and one.
Gino being legendary coach Gino Auriemma at UConn. What a powerhouse school they've been in US college basketball for a very long time. Wallace to George. And just like that, Townsville are back out to a 6-point lead. A couple of plays go their way. And they've re-established a little bit of a break. Can Mitchell have it again? She can. 3-point game once more.
And that makes her so dangerous. If she's able to stop and pop from the 3-point line now, it's so hard because she is so good getting downhill and getting to the rim.
Doesn't feel like she's had a massive influence on the game just yet, but she's up to 21 points. Reed to the corner. Nicholson now working on Mitchell. Shot clock to single digits. Hawkins. Reed against Wallace. She shoots over Christie. And Kayla off to Mitchell. Is it tiff time for the Boomers? They're inside 4 minutes in this third term. Foul call. Intensity lifting from the Melbourne Boomers in this third term. The Fire now looking to match it.
And this will be interesting from the Melbourne Boomers now, is how much do they slow down and execute in the half court, and how much are they pushing and running in transition? Because I think if they can find that balance between getting back to what worked well for them, which was inside, feet in the paint, touches, but also easy opportunities in transition, that's what's really going to be a difference maker for them.
Wallace to Mitchell. Shot clock single digits. George gets Christie wide open. Lovely movement from the Boomers, and they level it up once again.
And Kayla could have shot that, but the fact that she trusted Wally, saw she was wide open, and kicked it to a wide open shooter, that's what makes Melbourne so dangerous.
We've got ourselves a wonderful contest as Hawkins responds once more. Foul called. So it's back out to a 2-point lead for the Fire. And we're seeing two championship caliber teams just slugging it out right now as Samuelson takes a spell. Davidson's back in the game for Melbourne. Wallace to George. Murray. Mitchell. Tiff wants to take on Ruth. Classy finish from Tiff Mitchell.
And what Melbourne's doing is they're running this weave action, so their ball screen action doesn't actually happen until after the third reversal, and it makes it so much harder for Townsville to set their ball screen defense. That's why Tiff can get down and get her feet into the paint where she can shoot that pull-up J.
Steph likes the matchup against Panina. Shot short. George to Wallace. Melbourne really ratcheting up the intensity. Will Davidson work on Ruth? She will. And Melbourne are in front.
Again, another good poise recognition, deep paint touch. That's really important if Melbourne want to start pulling away with this lead.
What can Townsville come up with here? Dominated the second term. Woods knew the shot was short, so she followed it in herself. Knocked away by George. And hear the energy at the State Basketball Centre. It's lifted in this third term as the Melbourne crowd get behind the Boomers. They lead it by 2.
Interestingly enough, Melbourne hard showed on that last ball screen, so they're clearly changing up their ball screen defense so Townsville can't get comfortable and recognize how they can score.
George with the block, called for the foul. Didn't like the call. Quick inbound pass from Woods to Hawkins. Lara McSpadden back into the game for Townsville. Taylor still arguing the call. Chance here for Hawkins to level it up once again.
That is the commentator's curse if I've ever heard it.
First miss of the season from the stripe for Tiana Hawkins, 16 of 17 now. Wallace, Mitchell just. Hawkins almost cut it off. Good child to George. And now they'll set up at the top of the arc with Christy Wallace. Off to Davidson. Back to Wallace. Shot clock down to 6. Tough shot, tough finish. Great mate.
And you could see Wally trying to poke Davidson out so that Kayla could get that post up, and then Wally just had to make something out of nothing. That was great defense, just better offense.
Reed to Hawkins. Back to Reed. Mitchell comes up with it. Melbourne are rolling right now. Has some support, loses her feet, and turns it over. Frustration for Tiff Mitchell. Gets up a little sore, but fortunately no harm done as we head courtside to Megan Huswaite.
Lauren Nicholson is so often the spark for Townsville, and they will need her to be as Melbourne surge here. But what's the spark for Lauren Nicholson? It's 2 yellow snakes. She came to the bench just before to have a drink and asked for some yellow snakes. So let's see if the lollies can do the job for Lauren Nicholson.
Thanks, Megs. We've all got our routines. For Lauren Nicholson, she gets a couple of yellow snakes. You got any go-tos in particular, Kelsey, in game that you need for a burst of energy?
I love an orange Powerade.
Woods, Hawkins, and here is Lauren Nicholson. Off to Hawkins. A good child who signed a contract to come in for the rest of the season with the Melbourne Boomers this week. Great news for her. Former Duke graduate. And Christy Wallace extends the lead. A 12-point deficit at half-time turned into a 5-point advantage for the Boomers with a minute to play in the third.
And I think it's been Melbourne's defense. They've been able to limit it to one and done. The offensive rebounding of Townsville hasn't been able to be a factor here.
And Nicholson will not get more wide open this season, and she makes them pay. It's back to a 2-point contest, and a chance here for Townsville. Reed comes up with it, busy as always. Feeds McSpadden, and we're all locked up once again. Reed knocks it away from Wallace. Christie's shot is short. Now a chance for the final shot here for the Fire to regain the lead at three-quarter time. Melbourne have thrown everything at them in the third, got out to a 5-point advantage themselves. The Fire impressive, they've settled late. Can Reed finish? Hawkins to the corner for Nicholson. Oh, yeah!
Steph orchestrated that from half court. She put everyone exactly where she wanted to be to get Laws that shot. That is the exact shot she was expecting them to get.
Brilliant execution. What a game this is. Townsville 68, Boomers 65.
All right. Kayla's going to short blue on Hawkins. Okay, so she'll be at the point of the screen, so you still have to push it to make sure they don't reject the screen. Okay? Step-ups are good. We're rebounding the ball better. The field corner shot, okay, it's okay. Take the shot. You've got to be a threat. I need you to give us energy for a couple minutes here. All right? Let's go Horns Flare. Horns Flare. Put Kayla and Mia into it. You're on the O glass. Go the same side as Kayla. Okay? Horns Flare. All right?
Yups and helps. Know who the shooters are. Don't have to fully rotate to Hawkins. Just stun on her and then stay on your shooter.
All right, so there, at the moment, the last couple of plays, they've broken us down with penetration, cause rotation, extra pass. So containment is huge. If she gets beat, you've got to help. All right, here we go. Dig in here. All right.
28 points to 19 in the third term saw the Boomers come from 12 points down at halftime to 3 points down at the final change. Megan Huswaite was in the Townsville huddle.
I sure was, and Shannon Seaborn is happy with the state of affairs. We're fine now. This is good, is what he said. He wants them to let their system create. He talked about that this is what they talked about during the week. The fourth quarter is the time to execute. He wants his players to be elite at executing.
Thanks, Megs. 3-point game. What a finish this is going to be. A revealing Wednesday night clash on ESPN. Wallace's shot won't drop. Hawkins and Wallace wrestle to the floor. Kelsey Griffin, we were fortunate enough to listen in to Chris Lucas, his huddle at three-quarter time. What did you learn?
Well, I think for me, what Chris Lucas had to say was, you know, tidying up some ball screen defense and looking at how they wanted to help off gaps. But it was actually what Tess Madgen said, where she was talking about know the shooters, know who we can rotate off and who we need to short stun to. And I think she's alluding to, you know, if it's between Hawkins and Nicholson, we know that Hawkins can shoot the three, but Nicholson is not missing from the three. And so we have to be, at this level, know who the shooters are and rotate accordingly.
Lauren Nicholson 3 for 5 tonight from three-point range. Christy Wallace breaks up the play. She's a lot of fun watching Steph Reid and Christy Wallace go at it. Two of the scrappiest players, and I mean that in the most respectful way, in the competition. They give their team absolutely every ounce of energy they have every time they hit the floor. They fight for every single possession. And you've seen them go at it tonight. It's been a lot of fun to watch, and still 9.5 to play. Reid off to Samuelson. Look at the traffic she's trying to work her way through. It was too much in the end. George puts Murray out into space. Will Mia go herself? She runs into some traffic and draws a foul.
And that was a bit unlucky by Mia. I think she was going to try to set up a shooter in the corner, and then unfortunately Townsville was there, had their feet set, was able to draw the charge.
Tiff Mitchell with 23 points leads the game for the Boomers. 13 to Kayla George. Lauren Nicholson's got 18. 13 for Reid, 10 each for Hawkins and Samuelson.
And that's what makes Townsville so dangerous. You know, you're talking about 4 players in double figures already, and we're just starting the fourth quarter. Their ability to share the ball. You know, you want to rotate, but you know that they trust to find the next pass, find the next player, and they trust their system, make or miss, that they're going to get the best shot.
Boomers have got 3 in double figures. Mitchell 23, George 13, and Nelson Adoda 11. Nicholson goes to the floor. Samuelson. Reid. Shot clock down to 7 seconds. Steph, great identification. It was Roof inside. Boomers got there just in time. Wallace, George, thought about pulling the trigger on the 3. Gave it off to Goodchild, who does pull the trigger on the 3. And at three-quarter time, he looked at Mila Goodchild and said, hey, if the shot's there, you take it. You need to be a threat.
He did. He said, you're going to only be out there for a few more minutes. We need energy. We need you to shoot the ball. And clearly she listened.
Scores level again. Big moment for Mila Goodchild, and Nicholson responds to give Townsville the lead.
I think that's going to be important for Melbourne, is in their defense. They have to make the guards use the ball screens because their help side is not there because of the type of ball screen defense they're playing and how Shannon has everyone lifted high.
Ruth came up with the interception on the long ball. Reid, busy as always, winds her way through traffic. This time it won't go. Ball hits the deck. They pile it on top of Wallace. Jump ball. Steph Reid, quick to pounce. Two-point game, just over 8 minutes remaining. We've said a couple of times tonight, a revealing contest when you see two of the best teams in the competition go at it. They probe each other for their weaknesses. They look for the soft spots. We've seen that tonight. Both teams at certain times have had the game on their terms.
Definitely, and that's what's so exciting about the level of play is it's not just talent, but it's basketball IQ, it's coaching adjustment, it's players being able to read how they're being defended, make their adjustments on the fly, having quick huddles, saying this is what's happening, this is how we need to twist it so that we can get this look. And that's what makes the WNBL so special.
2-point lead to Townsville. Boomers retain possession. George, Nelson Adoda. Mitchell's got 23 points. Works on Nicholson. She's got Murray open from the corner. Roof. Reed. Samuelson goes to ground against Goodchild. And Miller says, who, me? Surely not.
That's a bit tough. I mean, that's impressive by Mia to shoot the ball and be the first back in safety. You know, that's just grit and determination. I think Millie Goodchild's a bit unlucky with that, unfortunately. But, you know, I've never played the perfect game of basketball, so we can't expect it to be right all the time. But I think it's also tough. Blocking charges calls, they have to be the hardest call to make in the game of basketball because it happens so quick.
So Chris Lucas read his lips. He said she just fell over.
It's tough.
Townsville ball. Can they capitalise here? Here's Samuelson. Reed versus Goodchild. Back to Carly. Likes it. Won't go. Opportunity for the Boomers to respond here. Can they tie it up or regain the lead themselves? Mia Murray with a double dribble brain fade.
Yeah, just really interesting to see what's happening here. And, you know, I just think it's nothing but that, but a brain fade. But on the positive side for Melbourne, what we're seeing is one-and-done defensive possessions. There wasn't even a Townsville player that was crashing the boards on that last play, whether it was their belief in Samuelson's three-point shot or not. But that's huge adjustment for Melbourne compared to the first half of basketball.
Wallace and Reed continue their battle. Christie slaps it away. Steph regains possession. Works now around. Wrap-around pass to Samuelson. George off to Wallace. To Kayla against Hawkins. Mitchell against Samuelson. Reed came across to provide the support on George. It left Wallace wide open. Couldn't finish the shot. Nelson Adoda, big board. Great contested rebound. Mitchell behind the back. Throws it out to Murray. George. Wallace. That'll get the crowd up and going.
That's beautiful basketball. Unselfish basketball. Had a great effort play by Nelson Adoda. Extra passes. Got the best shot possible. Ooh.
And there's the hesitation move again from Steph Reed. So very good. She did hit the floor hard. Teammates just coming in to check on her. So they've already lost Loz Nicholson, Megan Huswaite. She's sidelined with an injury issue. Tell us more.
She's just been getting her neck worked on the last couple of minutes. Before that, she hit the deck, we saw midway through this quarter, and she's just been having some work done to her neck. But the physio has just run straight from the Townsville bench to get out to Steph Reed. As we can see with the pictures, Courtney Woods and Carly Samuelson just helping attend to her at the moment with the team physio. Brent Gora's strength and conditioning coach with Townsville and also the Opals has just arrived, so he's just getting some things organised on the bench should they be able to get Steph Reed up and off the court safely in the next minute or so.
Thanks, Meeks. We saw there on the replay, she just ran into Tiff Mitchell and the upper half of her body contorted backwards and no doubt knocked the wind out of her. Let's hope it's only that. She's pulled up pretty sore, though. She'll hobble her way to the bench. And we saw Loz Nicholson, as Megan mentioned, sitting on the court at one point, just feeling the back of her neck. So they're two big star guards right now, Nicholson and Reed, both sidelined with 6.5 to play in a one-point game.
Yeah, that fall was really awkward. I think she even landed, the way she landed looked like her feet were under her body when she bent backwards. So I hope her ankles are okay. Steph's really tough. She takes a lot. She plays physically and she takes a lot of hits, and hopefully she'll be able to bounce back from this one. But that was pretty harsh fall.
So Lauren Nicholson back into the game there, as you can see, up against Mitchell. We'll keep a close eye on how she moves. Nelson Adoda knocks it away from McSpadden. Here is Nicholson. Woods against Murray. Hawkins gets a little bit of space. George to Wallace. Important now, some of these other role players, such as Courtney Woods and Samuelson. They've got some important minutes to play here with Nicholson and Reed, both injured. And Nicholson wears one in the breadbasket from Mitchell. She looks a little ginger, and as you can see there, still flexing that neck, Loz Nicholson, not moving all that smoothly right now.
And what's so interesting about this Nicholson-Mitchell matchup is they both love to rip baseline, and they both try to do it against each other, and it's turned into a really physical contest between the both of them.
Mitchell. Not quite. George gets an important hand in, receives back from Wallace. Murray. Wallace. Under 6 minutes remaining. It's short. Christie gets her own ball back. Instead of taking the extra shot, she'll pull back out. Reset. George. Nelson-Ododa versus McSpadden. And it's been a big night for Olivia Nelson-Ododa. You called it early, Kels. They got the ball in her hands a couple of times early. She got her confidence going, and she's had a great night.
And I think for a young player, that's so important. And, you know, you can wear the weight of the world as an import, and you feel like you have to perform, and there's this expectation. And certainly with her pedigree, she's played on a big stage, and she plays in the WNBA. But I think, you know, for her teammates to trust her, to keep going inside to her, she's only going to go from strength to strength.
Boomers lead it by 4. We'll go to Megs for an update on Steph Reid in just a moment. Woods, Samuelson, big possession here for the Fire. Can Nicholson shake off that stiff neck? Woods goes inside. There's Nelson-Ododa again at the defensive end. Off to Wallace. So right now, the momentum with the Boomers. They lead by 4. Nelson-Ododa. George on Hawkins. Adds another 2. It's a 6-point game.
I think it's, you know, Melbourne's recognized that they have this ability to run a horns or a high play where you can't help from the weak side. They can dive their opposite big, and they can really have a one-on-one mismatch down low in the key.
Nicholson, Samuelson, under the basket, comes back for more. Won't quite go. Nelson-Ododa in there again, off hands. Ball in dispute. Wait on the call. While we do, Megan Huswaite, an update on Steph Reid.
Steph Reid currently being worked on the sidelines. The Townsville medical staff working overtime on the left side of her body. She's currently getting her left shoulder taped, and her lower left leg also worked on after being crunched in that moment just a few minutes ago.
Thanks, Megs. It's been a physical game from the outset. A lot of crash and bash. As you mentioned, 4 of the most dynamic players in the competition. Nicholson, Reid, Wallace and Mitchell. They only know one way. Here's Christie. She comes in late on Ledger Walker, knocks it free, but it's collected by Ruth. 4.5 to play. It's been a compelling contest. Ledger Walker, path just opened up, and then it's shut down in a hurry. Nelson-Ododa, oh no, says oh no. It's not a great pass, and it's cut off. Nicholson, and Wallace delivers a huge basket. 3-point game again.
That is a captain's three-pointer right there. She knew her team needed it. Her point guard's injured on the bench. Stepped up, made the shot.
Captain's basket, Lauren Nicholson. 3-point game. Inside 4 minutes. George. Wallace. Nelson-Ododa sets the screen on Ledger Walker, and that's all Christie needed.
Clearly not happy with herself with the turnover. Wanted to put her team on her back again.
Samuelson against Murray. George comes across to help. Hawkins calls for it over the top. Lovely recognition from Ruth.
And that's what's so good about the high-low, because you can't help from when you're passing from the free throw line or the top of the key inside. There's no way that the help defense can help, and so that's really great execution.
Keeps it alive. Can Nelson-Ododa get there? She can. Under some pressure. Will she go herself? Draws a foul, does she?
She did. Charge. Was Nicholson.
Foul. And well done, Nicholson, as Steph Reid is prepared to step back into the contest with 3:10 left in the game. You mentioned how tough she is. Lauren Nicholson too. Both shaking off injuries in this final term to get back out there and help their team. They trail by 4 with just over 3 minutes to play.
Yeah, they are. They're both true competitors, and you know, clearly this game means a lot to them and what their team's trying to build. And I think I'm not surprised that Steph Reid is back on the court. She is incredibly tough. I think this timeout comes out where we can hopefully have Townsville will be looking to execute a play, potentially talk about defensively what they want to do for the high-low.
Let's listen in to Shannon Seabom.
Yeah, Kayla's going to roll down, so we've got to try and kick out. We've got to be loud, right? And then we've got to white, yeah? Right, unless it's one of you two. We've got to white her and pressure the ball, right? So we'll go red on the ball screens now, right? this play, let's go horns up, right, for Hawk. So Hawk, dribble handoff, Roof step out, throw it, Steph set the back pick. If it's not on, swing it, down screen, and then get out and ball screen, right? Hey, plenty of time here. We just got to execute down the stretch. Let's go. Fire. Job, girls.
A timeout brought to you by Aussie Hoops. Over 42,000 participants registering this season to an Aussie Hoops Centre. Perfect introduction to the world of basketball for kids aged 5 to 10. So give it a go, aussiehoops.basketball. As Chris Lucas revs up his troops. They lead by 4 points. They trailed by 12 at the half. They poured on 28 points in the third term, got within 3, took control in this final term. They lead it by 4 with 3 to play. What are you expecting from here?
Well, you could tell that Shannon was addressing how he wanted to defend the high-low, and clearly his team knows what that means to them. And this execution is really going to be important, and really the last 4 to 3 minutes of a game, execution down the stretch is what wins the basketball game.
Roof is trying to get it over the top to Hawkins. Boomers get a hand in, and Murray comes up with it.
That's a coach killer. Turning it over out of a timeout, it's tough.
Wallace and Reed. Hand-to-hand combat continues. Christie putting up some shots in this final term. That won't drop. And here comes Steph Reed back the other way. Wallace on her shoulder. Stays right there with her. Hawkins for 3. Not quite. Nelson Adota comes up with an important board for the Boomers. Gives it off to Wallace. Has to get it into the front court. Reed's there to put the pressure on. Right there. Well played, Steph Reed. That is the hustle of Steph Reed right there.
I mean, that is just great. To take a hit that she just took, still be prepared to be up and in physically, and then to be able to single-handedly get an 8-court back second call. That's a huge credit to Steph Reed and the competitor that she is.
Massive play, particularly if they can now turn it into points. Foul off the ball. It's going the Boomers' way.
Wow, offensive foul. I believe a moving screen was potentially called.
See Loz Nicholson not moving all that smoothly. Can't believe that call. Really frustrated. Boomers have it. Just over 2 minutes to play. Wallace to George, almost Hawkins. That leaves Kayla with a bit of space to work in. Reed's lurking, looking for a steal. That leaves Wallace versus Hawkins. And Reed versus George. Now Roof switches across to cover. Mitchell, Nelson Adota. Good recognition, Samuelson, but Nelson Adota finishes.
And that was great by Melbourne, recognizing that because Hawkins had chose to try to steal the ball in the full court, Kayla had a mismatch from the beginning. Townsville switched out so that Reed wasn't on her anymore. Nelson then realized she was on her, rolled her down. Eventually they got the ball inside. And I think that's just great recognition for the mismatch.
Breakout night for Olivia Nelson Adota. She's got 17 points. The Boomers lead it by 7. We're inside 2 minutes. What can Townsville come up with here? Reed and Nicholson. Back to Steph. Can she put this team on her shoulders again? Cut off by Mitchell. Huge play. Does it bring points? Another offensive foul.
That is amazing. That is so hard to do. I don't think people understand how hard it is to do. Not only did, Steph Reed would be annoyed with herself that she turned the ball over, but she didn't give up on the play. She sprinted back, got her feet set, tried to guess which way Tiffany Mitchell was going to Euro step, and guessed right, got the charge.
You can see her holding that left arm. That shoulder heavily strapped. And what a warrior, Steph Reed, at both ends of the floor, scrapping it out for the Fire as they try to stay alive. Let's take you into the Boomers timeout. Here's Chris Lucas.
They will come quick. We're in blacks. We're in blacks to contain it. You guys must read. Don't overhelp if she goes baseline. All right? Switch only on what come together. All right? Only if you can.
The bailout on that, our apologies. Not actually supposed to go into the timeouts with under 2 minutes to play in the game. So our apologies there. We can talk over them though. Kels, what's the message here from Shannon Seabohm, do you think? They trail by 7.
Well, I think Shannon definitely, he's been saying all game, his plays that he draws up have multiple options. So I have no doubt that he's told his team, we're doing this. If this isn't on, we've got this. If this isn't on, it's because we've got this. And so they're going to find the best shot offensively. At this point in the game, they're going to need to be really aggressive defensively. So look to have some full court extended pressure, trapping ball screens, see if they can get some steals, deny the ball hard, because really they have to be able to create possessions because there's just not enough time left.
Both teams in the bonus, foul-wise. The Boomers lead by 7 points. Townsville ball, 95 seconds to play. Reed fights her way through George and Wallace. Christie would now love nothing more than to turn up the heat on Steph. Hawkins. Back to Reed. Shot clock down to 10. Samuelson steps around Murray, gets to the shot she likes, but Nelson Adoda got in the way. And the Boomers will be happy to slow the tempo here. Work this shot clock right down. There in the box seat, Wallace turns it over. Another turnover for Melbourne. They've been their worst enemy tonight. Can you believe that's their 28th turnover of the game? 28-17. Extraordinary.
I cannot. Honestly, I cannot. I think for Wally in that one, she probably passed the ball before she caught it, unfortunately for her, but gives Townsville another opportunity. They're going to need to execute quickly and get some shots up.
Wallace stalks Roof. Can't quite strip her. Reels out of that contest. Roof still has it. Wide open. Huge bucket for Samuelson. Won't go. Wallace tries to grab it. Hawkins does well. Roof will jack up a three and make it.
And
huge.
I have no doubt that in Chris Lucas's timeout, he was saying no threes. We don't want to collapse. We don't want to give up offensive rebounds because Townsville needs extra possessions in this game. And the only way they get that is by creating foul trouble, so creating contact and stopping the clock by getting fouled, or offensive rebounds.
Or turnovers.
Or turnovers, yes.
So after the timeout, they got a turnover and allowed a three as well.
Yes.
Not how Chris Lucas drew it up. So the Fire are still well and truly alive. 4-point game, 46 seconds left. Put yourself in Shannon Seabomb's seat right now.
Well, I think Shannon's looking at this game as this is what he wanted. He wanted a hard contest for his team. He knows that they know their plays, that they can execute, and he has a lot of confidence in his squad. They all know each other, they know their strengths, and they never give up. They have never one point in this game thought they had the game in the bag or gave up when the chips were stacked against them.
It's all about execution in this final 46 seconds. And Kels, it really is a mix, isn't it? The adrenaline's pumping, the crowd's roaring, but you've got to be so precise. At the same time, you've got to be aggressive. It's all these things thrown into the cauldron at once.
It certainly is. And oftentimes in these situational-based times, there are different game plans than what you originally set out. So you might be switching ball screens that you wouldn't normally switch because you don't want to give up a three. Or you might be doubling here because you're trying to create a steal. And so you have this game plan that you set out for, but oftentimes in a close game down the stretch, that can be changed completely.
4-point game, Boomers ball, advance to the front court. George, Murray, Wallace. Shot clock down to 8. Boomers need some points on this play. Adoda, Mitchell, 2 seconds. Ledger Walker, Wallace just has to jack it up. And Townsville get the stop they needed.
And that was also smart. Shannon didn't have his team foul. He trusted that they would be able to get the stop. They got the stop, and now they're able to go in, drop and play.
Megs was in the Townsville huddle at the last time out, Megs.
And Kelsey, that is exactly what Shannon said. He didn't want them to foul there. There's still plenty of time to go. Spare a thought for Crystal Ledger-Walker, who's barely played this season. She's now got an important role in the starting five as Steph Reed and both Courtney Woods are on the bench in these final 30 seconds.
Great point, Meg. She's played 4 games and averaged 5 minutes a game, Crystal, so she's only been out there for 20 minutes for the whole season. But these are the sort of opportunities. 25-year-old from New Zealand hasn't quite adjusted to the speed and intensity. She's thrown into this situation, Kels. Could be the making of it.
Absolutely, but I think for Shannon, anyone who's playing for Shannon, he's prepared them. So he's not going to put any one of his players in a position for them not to be successful. And so while typically in this situation, yes, he would want Steph Reed being the person that's executing, she's also had to go up against Steph Reed in all of preseason, all of the games. She knows the sets. I have no doubt that Steph Reed's mentoring her to some extent to be able to have moments like this, because as a teammate, you want everyone around you to be better. You know, you want everyone to be better because ultimately it's the team success is your success. And so I'm excited for her and to see what Townsville is able to execute out of this timeout.
Need a stop, a basket rather, a stop and another basket. They trail by 4 with 30 seconds left. These two teams have had some incredible games in recent times. This has been another beauty. Nicholson, Hawkins. Here is Ledger Walker. It's short. Wallace has it. She'll wrestle her way through the traffic and she'll want to be fouled, and she is fouled by Nicholson, which will send her to the line. Boomers in the bonus. So Christie can go back and settle things down here for Melbourne.
And that's always that danger. You're trying to escape. You don't want to get a jump ball. You don't want to turn it over. You don't know if people are trying to foul. So great job by Wally being able to get the ball forward, but ultimately get fouled.
She's had 15 points tonight in her 36 minutes on the floor. The 5 starters for Melbourne have all played big minutes. 36 for Wallace, 35 for Murray, 30 for Nelson Adota, 35 for George, and 37 for Mitchell. They have got 10 days off after this game, so Chris Lucas going with his frontliners tonight. Mitchell gets across, forces it out of bounds. So with 15 seconds to play, the Boomers lead it by 6. Nicholson to Hawkins. Back to Loz Nicholson. Will go herself. Wallace comes up with another big rebound. Runs through the traffic. And it's a big win for the Boomers. The reigning champs hand the fire back-to-back losses and take a grip on outright second. They've now got a 9-day break to prepare for 3 games in 5 days in the lead up to Christmas. Well, the Fire will dust themselves off and be back at SBC to face the Flyers in another blockbuster on Saturday. What a game of basketball. What a gritty game of basketball. Talking about just the caliber of play that was played tonight, the coaching that was done, the adjustments that were made. It was physical. The offense was exceptional. It started off a bit shaky, but I think that's because of the defensive intensity from both teams. You know, it's going to be an exciting season. So the Boomers held to 37 points in the first half. That was Shannon Seabom's intention, keep them in the 70s. They scored 47 in the second half, got off the chain, win it by 6. Here's Meeks courtside.
Game 6 of her WNBL career is the night that you came alive and broke out in this competition. Olivia, how does it feel to have played that hand in this win?
It feels great. Tonight, honestly, was just a team effort. I think we fought really till the end, nail and tooth, and we were able to come out with the win. And so I really just give the credit to my teammates. Everybody was engaged, and everybody kept going. It was great.
Has it taken a bit of adjusting? It's a very loud crowd, isn't it, which is awesome with the Boomers fans. Has it taken a bit of adjusting to this league, the way it's played, the way it's refereed, obviously coming out as your first pro stint? Has it taken a while to really settle in?
Absolutely. You know, just coming from a different country, different style of play, like you said, different level of physicality, all of it. But I think, you know, my coaches and my teammates have really helped prepare me, especially coming in from October to now. And so I think just grinding in practice and working with everybody has been really good and really great just for the development of everybody.
You talked about it being a team effort. How much has the support of the team around you, Coach Chris Lucas, Tess Madgen was assistant coach tonight, how much have they helped fill you with confidence that you can go out there and dominate a game like this?
They've helped enormously. I mean, my leaders, from my leaders down to, you know, even the development players, everybody plays a part in it. I think we all give each other confidence and just the way we cheer for each other and encourage each other. So I think everybody just plays a huge part in it.
Played a huge part tonight. Well done, Olivia. Great win. Congratulations, and on to the next.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
She comes from a wonderful basketball pedigree. Took up the game when she was 7 years of age. Her dad, Sebastian, played in college. He also played in Kenya. Both her brothers have played at a very high level as well. She was an All-American in high school, Olivia Nelson Adota, and then a great college career at one of the great schools, UConn. The Big East Defensive Player of the Year in 2021, taken by LA in pick 19 of the draft. her 6th game tonight. A lot to like about Olivia Nelson-Ododa.
She does, and I think what happened in that second half, it really was a game of two halves for the Melbourne Boomers, and it was defensively, and they were one and done. And so whether it was her length disrupting Townsville in the second half defensively and allowing her teammates to get the rebounds, I think that she's just going to get better as the season goes on.
Wonderful performance from her tonight. Tiff Mitchell with 23 points. Wallace and Ododa with 17 apiece. George with 15. Tess Madgen with a different role tonight. Here she is with Megs.
Well, Tess, congratulations. First game as assistant coach, first win. That's a great record.
Yeah, Christy, I can't wait for you to get back. That was way too stressful.
What about, we're just talking about the Harry High pants. Did you have these in the wardrobe? It's not the usual match day uniform for you.
Yeah, I had to get the coach's pants out. You know, look good, feel good, coach good, apparently.
How much did you enjoy it? Chris communicated and worked with you throughout the game. I saw that in the last time out. Had a bit of a chat to you about what you guys were going to do. I'm sure you learnt heaps tonight.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've been sitting out next to Chris and Christy every game that's at home, so it's a lot harder than what it looks out on the court. As a player, I find it a lot easier to coach on the court, but definitely on the sidelines, I have a newfound respect for coaches. You know, Chris is an amazing coach, and we knew that if we could control the possession game coming out of half-time, it would go a long way to win the game. So super effort to the players for getting the rebound count back on track and, you know, looking after the ball a bit more.
Now let's go to the main question, Tess. When are you going to be back?
Hopefully in the next couple of weeks. You know, I'm training really hard, doing all the rehab, so I can't wait to get back out on the court and help the girls on the court.
Well, assistant coaching went well for you tonight. I think you guys have a bit of a break now between your next games, but will you be handing the reins back to Christy Harrower?
I really hope so. You know, the break does my knee, my rehab really well, so I'm hoping to get a really good stint in over the next couple of days.
Good stuff, Tess. Well done tonight. Hopefully we never see those pants again.
Thank you. Megan Hustwaite with Tess Madgen. And there's little Sid Murray doing the warm down with his mum. And Kels, it is something that adds a totally different dimension to WNBL teams, isn't it? The teams that have got little kids or bubs around, it just creates a totally different vibe.
It really does, but also it's remarkable. Like you see your teammate, you go training with your teammate, you're tired, you can barely take care of yourself after training. And they're full-time moms, and some of them are working as well. And so I think it just gives you a whole new perspective, and it also just a level of joy, especially with how excited the kids usually are. Sometimes there are temper tantrums, but how excited the kids
and the kids as well.
Yeah, exactly. But it's it's something so special, and I think that it's really, really great that our game can do that, but also remarkable shout out to the women who are able to do it.
Absolutely. Well said, Kelsey Griffin. Hey, that was a lot of fun tonight. What a wonderful game it was. It swings and roundabouts. We're back to wrap up with Kelsey Griffin next.